Early observers believed that the increase in the range and volume of the formal means of communication would enlarge and animate the primary public. In such optimistic views, written before radio and television and movies, the formal media are understood as simply multiplying the scope and pace of personal discussion. Modern conditions, Charles Cooley wrote, enlarge indefinitely the competition of ideas, and whatever is owed its persistence merely to lack of comparison is likely to go, for that which is really congenial to the choosing mind will be all the more cherished and increased. Still excited by the break-up of the conventional consensus of the local community, he saw the new means of communication as furthering the conversational dynamic of classic democracy, and with it the growth of rational and free individuality. No one really knows all the functions of the mass media, for in their entirety these functions are probably so pervasive and so subtle that they cannot be caught by the means of social research now available. But we do now have reason to believe that these media have helped less to enlarge and animate the discussions of primary publics than to transform them into a set of media markets in mass-like society. I do not refer merely to the higher ratio of deliverers of opinion to receivers and to the decreased chance to answer back, nor do I refer merely to the violent banalization and stereotyping of our very sense organs in terms of which these media now compete for attention. I have in mind a sort of psychological illiteracy that is facilitated by the media and that is expressed in several ways. 1. Very little of what we think we know of the social realities of the world have we found out firsthand. Most of the pictures in our heads we have gained from these media, even to the point where we often do not really believe what we see before us until we read about it in the paper or hear about it on the radio. The media not only give us information, they guide our very experiences. Our standards of credulity, our standards of reality, tend to be set by these media rather than by our own fragmentary experience. Accordingly, even if the individual has direct personal experience of events, it is not really direct and primary. It is organized in stereotypes. It takes long and skillful training to so uproot such stereotypes that an individual sees things freshly in an unstereotyped manner. One might suppose, for example, that if all the people went through a depression, they would all experience it, and in terms of this experience, that they would all debunk or reject or at least refract what the media says about it. But experience of such a structural shift has to be organized and interpreted if it is to count in the making of opinion. The kind of experience, in short, that might serve as a basis for resistance to mass media is not an experience of raw events, but the experience of meanings. The fleck of interpretation must be there in the experience if we are to use the word experience seriously, and the capacity for such experience is socially implanted. The individual does not trust his own experience, as I have said, until it is confirmed by others or by the media. Usually such direct exposure is not accepted if it disturbs loyalties and beliefs that the individual already holds. To be accepted, it must relieve or justify the feelings that often lie in the back of his mind as key features of his ideological loyalties. Stereotypes of loyalty underlie beliefs and feelings about given symbols and emblems. They are the very ways in which men see the social world, and in terms of which men make up their specific opinions and views of events. They are the results of previous experience, which affect present and future experience. It goes without saying that men are often unaware of these loyalties, that often they could not formulate them explicitly. Yet such general stereotypes make for the acceptance or the rejection of specific opinions, not so much by the force of logical consistency as by their emotional affinity and by the way in which they relieve anxieties. To accept opinions in their terms is to gain the good solid feeling of being correct without having to think. When ideological stereotypes and specific opinions are linked in this way, there is a lowering of the kind of anxiety which arises when loyalty and belief are not in accord. Such ideologies lead to a willingness to accept a given line of belief. Then there is no need, emotionally or rationally, to overcome resistance to given items in that line. Cumulative selections of specific opinions and feelings become the pre-organized